COMMGiving. Like I said last night, I'm wearing a blue shirt, blue tie, look a little bit more professional. But I took off the sweater, I took off the jacket. It was too hot. It was too hot. It's still just October. So today's post for COMMGiving is I asked the question, do you really know your audience? And last night for last evening for State Wellness Atlas and for the Culture Proof, I shared a map that resolved the problem between inability for welfare recipients to find affordable nonprofit housing throughout the province of Ontario. And I think a lot of people were scratching their head as to this funny phenomenon where homeless people would be receiving welfare checks and yet they'd be on the street. Yeah, that's a funny stigma, isn't it? That the state or the province would be handing money to homeless people. So what I found, in thinking about this funny puzzle, this funny riddle, is that every municipality manages its own nonprofit housing for the poor, and the state dispenses welfare funds as a different stream. So if you're poor, you manage to get on welfare, but if you're stuck in one municipality, be it a big one, the rent might be too high for your welfare coverage, or the wait list is too long. But for lack of convenience and transportation, you can't find housing in neighboring cities or throughout the rest of the state with affordable, like low rent housing. Because even though it's nonprofit, subsidized housing in a big city will still cost you more than nonprofit subsidized housing in a small town. And all you really need is shelter, a job, and sort of like that welfare top up for savings to get you back on your feet. That's why if you live in a small town, in a big town, and you're on welfare, your entire check is depleted because of the rent. Whereas in a small town, you still have something left. And that goes towards the quality of life, right? And if you're more comfortable, you can focus on future things. So for a nonprofit, for a charity, that's certainly something to scratch your head about. And so as a case, from my own experience volunteering, I know that communication is a huge barrier between charities and the clients they serve. Charities and poor people, or charities and disabled people. The dissemination of information, a huge barrier. So even though that webpage is on a government website, it's actually pretty well buried in the whole pile of government web pages. So that's a huge stumbling block for charities, between charities and their clients. So I knew that from actual work experience, and then I didn't really understand the welfare situation between how welfare funds and housing are two separate streams, until I looked at the data between welfare, the gap in welfare income and sort of like middle class income, like the poverty line, and then how you can still be under the poverty line while you're receiving welfare. And then basically welfare just tops you up as you're working like low paying jobs, something like that. And putting those two ideas, I came up to look for a page like that somewhere in the government archives, and then I also turned that into a map. So now my maps are very popular. They've they have over 100,000 engagements, which means when you open it, you don't just look at it like a picture. You play around with it and you feel around with it, and and why would like people on welfare have cell phones? Actually, they require cell phones to stay connected. So the welfare check gives them access to some type of connectivity, but they can't find like stable housing. So the two can meet, like, you know, the internet, information on the internet, and people on welfare. You just need that user-friendly experience in order to find stable housing. So it's a funny relationship, but it does work out. So when you're facing a funny riddle like that, it's like, so like a snake eating its own tail, or which came first, the chicken or the egg? It comes down to like actual work experience, what you know in the field, and also understanding the model, right? Through analytics and statistics. How so like the system is set up to work, and it just so happens by coincidence that, you know, I'm you know, I work on the web. I'm creating these maps, and I'm interested in their situation. So if you have a riddle between, you know, between a charity and a client and the clients they serve, it's sometimes you're not fully aware of the audience, the client's situation, and it can seem like a chicken or which came first, chicken or egg situation. But that's why data and analytics is so important. I think it's you know, the census and all that stuff, and good data is on par with like patents and like your star athlete or good decision making. You know, it's very imperative to a company. So so do you really know your audience well enough? Comes down to actual field experience and also data, right? Because data is bigger than your own personal experiences. You know, it either confirms what you know, or else it reveals something else. Like you know, maybe what you know is the exception to the rule, or maybe what you know is the rule. So data is very important. So both field experience and data together can solve that conundrum between charities and the clients they serve, which is like, you know, which came first, chicken or the egg? Like, you have welfare, and which kind of gives you connectivity, like, you know, maybe I don't know, internet access somewhere, but you're homeless. How does that work out? Why? Doesn't make sense. You got a mobile phone and you're on a welfare, but you're living on the streets. Why? Now we know why. So that's like my case. That's my post for COMMGiving. See you later.